Good evening once again. Today we'll be looking at the gross anatomy of the reproductive system. Specifically, we're going to look at the male reproductive system and the female reproductive system. Okay, so quickly I'll go through what we need to know. When it comes to the male reproductive system, structures that we're going to talk about, when you look on the screen, we're going to look at testis, the epididymis, the vas deferens ejaculatory duct, the spermatic cord, the scrotal sac, the penis, and the accessory glands. With accessory glands, I mean the seminal vesicle, the prostate, and the boatemah gland, also known as the palpi gland. Okay, so why do we need to look at these parts when we are doing reproductive system? Mostly when you ask people, what's the function of the testis? Most people will go like the testis is actually for the production of sperm cells, at times for the production of the testosterone, but that is not much enough. You see, when you go deep into the testis, we have structures that produce the sperm cell, we have structures that protect the sperm cells, and we have structures that produce the male hormone. Okay, but are you aware that embryologically the testes were once upon a time located exactly where your kidneys are? Yes, currently where your kidneys are. You see, when you want to trace the structure, a particular structure in the human body, we look at the blood supply. So, though the testes found themselves in the scrotal sac, their blood supply is from the abdominal aorta. Okay, so it's not a branch coming from the internal iliac that supplies the testes. No, it's from the abdominal aorta. So the descending effects of the testis is very, very important. Okay, so if you look on the screen, we have A, B, C showing different stages of the descending effect of the testis. Okay, so if you look at A, the testis was very naked, very naked. You see, once it passes the posterior abdominal wall and enters through the anterior abdominal wall through the inguinal canal, it takes skins, it takes covering, it takes muscles from these structures, and it's very important. Okay, now if you look at A and B, you can see that we have introduction of new structures. We have the vaginalis, that's in C will disintegrate to form a fibrous cord. Okay, we have some people that adult that will still have the vaginalis as something, as a remnant in them, which needed to be dissolved. The testis in descending will still push through the anterior abdominal wall straightly through the inguinal canal, and then it will be taking skins and muscles, as I said. Okay, now when you look at the component of the spermatic cord is a structure that finds itself in the inguinal canal in males. In females, it's the round ligament. Okay, so this spermatic cord will have muscles, will have fascias taken from these two different angles. Okay, so for instance, we can have transversalis fascia as an internal forming part of the spermatic cord. We also can have the internal oblique and transversus abdominis muscles or fascias also forming parts of the content of the spermatic cord. Okay, but these things were taken, as I said, right from the anterior abdominal wall whilst these testes were descended. Okay, so what happens if the testes fail to descend? The testes, when it fails to descend, can be at the posterior abdominal wall, can also be in the pelvic cavity, can also even be located in the inguinal canal. Why would the testes even need to descend in the first place? Have you asked yourself that question? The human body temperature is 37. The male testis cannot support 37 degrees Celsius. That is why it's descended. So it means when the testis fail to descend, it forms a condition that we call the cryptoptic testis. In that manner, it means that the human body temperature affects the unique function of the testis. In other words, it means that if both testes fail to descend, that boy will remain a boy forever. At puberty, the second characteristic that need to develop, I mean, the surge of the testosterone to develop the muscle, the breaking of voice will not be possible. Okay, the production of sperm cells will not also be possible. So it's especially important for the testis to descend. So in clinical practice, when a baby boy is born, the midwife will quickly have an assessment of the baby, including the scrotal sac, pipette it to see if you have a viable testis in there. Okay. One other clinical condition that can happen, not only the cryptotic testis, we can also have congenital inguinal hernias. You see, this testis, while descending, can push the intestine into the inguinal canal too. So we have babies that will be born and then automatically they have inguinal hernia that needs to be dealt with instantly. Okay, hydrocell formation can also be there with this. But one important aspect is that what happens if a baby is born when the testis is not descended? What happens? What do we do as clinicians? The best thing to do is not to waste time. Observation. You just need to observe it for some months and then give reassurance to the parent involved. Okay. If after 3 to 6 months does it descend, then of course we need specialist attention. Okay. So remember, the testis number 1 is located at the posterior abdominal wall where currently the kidneys are. Number 2, the descending effect of the testis take skin, covering, and also muscles. The testis pass through the inguinal canal, anterior abdominal wall, into the inguinal canal, and find itself in the scrotal sac, hung by the spermatic cord. If the testis fails to descend, it means we have a cryptoptic testis. Other clinical note that can be in there, we can have the congenital inguinal hernia, can be direct, indirect, because whilst these testes are pushing themselves through, they can push themselves with the intestines into the canal. Okay, hydrocell formation can also be formed. So it's very important to understand that a man to be a man should have the testis descended. Remember, if they fail to descend, we just need to understand that it's not an emergency. We need to wait for some time. If it doesn't descend, then of course the right thing to that. One thing they can also do is to take a scan to know exactly where it's headed. Is it in the posterior abdominal wall? Is it in the inguinal canal? Or is it in the pelvic? Okay. Now on the screen here, I have a case presentation. If you look at the case presentation, it's for a 46-year-old man that had swellings at both sides of the inguinal region, and then one was removed 2 years earlier, and then another one was dealt with after 2 years. You see, when these growths were taken out and examined histologically, it was diagnosed that it was testis. Okay, but the funny thing is, I think is for this gentleman, both testes did not descend. They were hidden in the inguinal canal. But the novelty is that this gentleman had 2 children. These are some of the cases that as clinician we're going to follow. Now, this gentleman had 2 children. And then I'm asking myself, what? Is it a novel thing? The only person who can answer that question is actually the mother of the children. Okay, so in simple terms, this gentleman cannot even produce viable sperm cells. But cases like this happens every day. Okay, so as clinicians, when you meet cases in this manner, let this one work. Okay, so the testis actually, apart from the descending effect of it and everything, it weighs around 10.5 to 14 grams. It's episoidal in shape. Okay, and that's 3 covering. Remember, when you say tunica means covering. The covering is like that from the external to the internal. We have tunica vaginalis, tunica abugenia, and tunica basilosa. These are the covering of the testis. You see, these are hung in the scrotal sac by the help of the epididymis. Okay, so if you look at the epididymis as shown on the screen, epididymis lies posterolateral part of the testis as shown on the screen here. You see, it has the head, the body, and the tail. Okay, sperm cells actually are saved at the tail Mature sperm cells are safe at the tail of the epididymis. Okay. So when you have a cross section of the testis, this is what we see. A cross section of the testis shows the lobe between one septa to another septa. The structure in there is called a lobe. Okay. And then if you go further, these lobes are made up of semiferous tubule. Semiferous tubule. Okay. And these semiferous tubule are linked to up to the epididymis. Okay. So the semiferous tubule have two cells in it and then one cell outside. The one cell outside is the interstitial cell of Leydig. And then we have the spermatogonia cells and then the Sertolic cell inside the semiferous tubule. Okay. So this is for microscopic aspect. If I should go further, I would say that the Leydig cell is responsible for the production of the male hormone, that is testosterone, and then the Sertolic cell is responsible for the feeding, clothing, and protecting of the spermatogonia cells. Actually, it is the structure that form the blood testis barrier. Why? Because the spermatid creation, the spermatid form in the testis will have a haploid in nature. Okay, so your own immune system sees them as foreign, so they can attack and destroy it. To make sure they are not attacked, the Sertolic cell forms a strong barrier that makes sure that your own immune system cannot get access into the lobes, into the semiferous tubule, and then to the spermatic or the sperms to destroy them. Okay, so we have spermatocytes, the primary one, the secondary one, the spermatid, and of course the spermatozoa. Remember, from the spermatid to the spermatozoa, that is where we have the haploid aspect. From the primary, the secondary, they are diploid in nature. Okay. So the accessory glands, very important. The accessory glands are three in nature. We have as shown on the screen here, this is the prostate gland. We have the semiferous, the seminal vesicle, and then of course we have the bulboureteral gland. So bulboureteral gland, prostate, and then the seminal vesicle. Now this is the vastus efferent or datus deferens. And then if you look here carefully, the urethra joins into the bladder. This structure is the urinary bladder. Okay. Now, this cross margin is important. You see, the datus deferens passes anterior to where the urethra joins to the bladder. So any aspect that happens here, let's say there's a kidney stone, and that kidney stone is locked in here, is going to affect this particular structure in there to block the pathway of the sperm cells. Okay, so if you trace that particular structure to here, this is the area that we call the ejaculatory duct. Here, where the datus deferens meets the vas deferens. Here, we call it ejaculatory duct, and the ejaculatory duct opens into the prostate. So it means that from the ejaculatory duct, we have the seminal vesicles secreting structures into the semen, the sperm cells. Okay, the structure of the seminal vesicle is around 70 to 60% fluid secreted the sperm cells,